Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Human Resources. I'm Chris Palmer, MLA for Kings West and chair of the committee. And today, in addition to reviewing appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions, we'll be holding an agenda-setting meeting to select our topics for the next number of months. So at this point, I'd like to ask everybody here in the committee room to please put your phones to silent. And in the case of an emergency, we'll all use the Granville Street exit. I'd like to now ask all members of the committee to introduce themselves for the record by stating their name and their constituency. We'll begin with MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Melissa Sheehy-Richard, MLA for Hants West.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Ritzie, MLA for Truro Bible Hill, Millbrook, and Salmon River.
Good afternoon, Johnny McDonald, MLA for Hants East.
Good day, Nolan Young, MLA for Shelburne.
Good afternoon, everyone. Susie Hansen, MLA for Halifax Needham.
Good afternoon, Ali Doale, Halifax Armdale.
Good afternoon and welcome. Tony Ince, Cole Harbour.
Thank you, everyone. And for the purposes of Hansard, I also recognize the presence of Legislative Counsel Gordon Hebb to my left and Legislative Committee Clerk, the one and only Judy Kavanagh, to my right. We'll now proceed with the agencies, boards, and commissions appointments. I'll ask MLA McDonald to bring those forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Community, Cultures, Tourism, and Heritage, I move to recommend Wanda McDonald be appointed as the member of the Eastern Counties Regional Library Board.
Motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
For the Department of Environment and Climate Change, I move to recommend Scott Skinner be appointed as member and chair to the Roundtable on Environment and Sustainable Prosperity. And Susan Fuller, Sarah Riley, Graham Gagnon, Angie Gillis, Doug Chazon, Robert Yunzen, and Sarah Stewart Clark be appointed members to the Roundtable of Environment and Sustainable Prosperity.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to recommend Howard Blinn be appointed as a member of Nova Scotia Fishery and Aquaculture Loan Board. For Howard Blinn. What did I say? I move to recommend Howard Blinn be appointed as a member of the Nova Scotia Fisheries and Aquacultural Loan Board for the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk later.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
Thank you. For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Wanda McDonald and Beverly Patterson be appointed as public representatives to the board of the Nova Scotia College of Dietitians and Nutritionists, and Dermot Crooks and Joel Rayfuse be appointed as members to the board of Nova Scotia College and Physiotherapist.
Motion on the table. Any discussion? MLA Ince.
Thank you. Just a question. Is Wanda McDonald the same Wanda McDonald as introduced earlier?
MLA McDonald.
I would have to go through and look at the resumes. I'm not sure whether it's the same or not, MLA Ince.
Just curious if you could just let us.
We'll just take a minute for the clerk to have a look. So if our clerk could let us know, that would be great.
According to their applications, yes, it looks like the same person. They had the same home address.
Millions.
And just for the record, not opposed, I was just curious.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion.
Department of Justice, I move to recommend Timothy McDermott be appointed to the Police RCMP Advisory Board 30 as a member of the Municipality of East Hants.
Motion on the table, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA McDonald.
For the Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration and the Department of Natural Resources and Renewable, I move to recommend Paul Collier be appointed as member industry to the Canada Nova Scotia Offshore Area Occupational Health and Safety Advisory Council. That's a mouthful.
Motion on the table, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. And MLA McDonald.
And I believe last, if not least, for the Department of Public Works, I move to recommend Janet McMillan be appointed as Vice Chair and member to the Halifax-Dartmouth Bridge Commission.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you very much, MLA McDonald, for that. We will now move into our agenda-setting part of our meeting today. Members have all been emailed a complete list of the proposed topics from all the caucuses, and you should have hard copies at your desk as well. And we will end up with 6 topics. There'll be 3 to the PC caucus, 2 to the Liberal caucus, and 1 to the NDP. So at this point, I will call on the members of the PC caucus to present their topics. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
I move the first topic for the PC caucus be modernization, accessibility, and harmonization of safety, regulation, and services for today's workforce, with the following witnesses: Deputy Minister of Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration, and Senior Executive Director of Safety.
Is there a motion? Motion is on the table. Is there any discussion on that?
I have a question.
Okay. That clarification is, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
I move that the second topic for the PC caucus be implementing the equity and anti-racism strategy, with the following witnesses: Deputy Minister of Office of Equity and Anti-Racism Initiative.
Motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We're going to take a small pause for 1 second. So what we will do, I will ask members of the PC caucus to make sure we please forward the motion that you're reading to the clerk, please, with the witnesses on that. Sorry? So if we could just have that distributed, that'd be great. So we'll go to MLA Sheehy Richard.
Okay. I move that the third topic for the PC caucus be government investment in healthcare tuition programs and the response of the post-secondary institutions with the following witnesses: Deputy Minister, Department of Advanced Education, Executive Director for Universities and Colleges, President, Nova Scotia Community College, VP, Academic and Equity from the department.
So there's a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as the same as the previous topics, it would have been nice for us to be able to have an idea of who was going to be called from what departments. I mean, maybe not the names specifically, but, you know, just their positions, just so that we would be able to have an idea of who we could kind of suggest as well, if that was an opportunity. So just for future reference, that would be wonderful for us to have that information. Thank you.
Thank you, MLA Hanson. Your point is well taken. Thank you. MLA Dwally.
And also, just to be fairness with the clerk, I think she's here to guide us, and she's not questioning, but I think, and also just for our own purpose of working together, what is the best interest for our province and our people. We do have a standard. We have, acceptable ways that we deal each other and present our ideas. So this was not part of our practice, which is we received the information that we're discussing early enough so we could have our own questions and concern. So I think I will ask the members of the PC to keep this in mind. You could have an agenda, but it will be better to be transparent, to let us know ahead of time so we could have a time to digest and to respond. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, MLA Dwally. Both your concerns are well noted. Appreciate the feedback. So there is the motion on the table for now. We have discussion. Is there all those in favor of the motion say aye? Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We will now move to the Liberal Caucus for your selections, please. MLA Ince.
Thank you, Chair. For our first topic, we'd like to put in addressing the need of affordable housing and increasing housing supply in Nova Scotia. Proposed witnesses, we are asking for the Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the Executive Director, Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia.
Motion is on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Dwally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second topic for our party will be firefighters' mental health support. We'd like to ask witnesses for Halifax Professional Firefighter Association, Fire Service Association of Nova Scotia, the Chief Officer of Office of Addiction and Mental Health. Thank you.
Thank you, MLA Dwally. On the table, motion is on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We'll move to the NDP caucus for your selection of your topic. MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The NDP caucus proposed topic is the Canada-Nova Scotia Canada-wide Early Learning and Child Care Agreement 2021 to 2026 update. And we would like our witnesses to be the Deputy Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development, the Coordinator of Child Care Now Nova Scotia, Dr. Tammy Finley, Professor of the Department of Political and Canadian Studies at MSVU, a representative of the Association of Early Childhood Educators, and a representation from the Early Learning and Child Care Engagement Table.
Thank you. Motion is on the table. Is there any discussion? MLA Ince.
I just want to say that we would like to support the NDP, and we'd like to also call for representation from the Early Learning and Childhood Engagement Table as a witness.
So we have original motion on the table. So you're asking for an amendment to that motion? There's no motion. It's okay. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, sorry. Okay. And all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Very good, everyone. So we'll now move on to our other business, from our committee business. We'll first talk about our January 2024 meeting date. It's been brought to our attention. Obviously, our first Tuesday in January is January the 2nd?
Second.
So I don't know if anyone wants to come in on January 2nd. So there's a few ideas being proposed. Perhaps January 11th or January 18th. Is anyone opposed to any of those dates? We could do a MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since, let's face it, the first week, all the kids are going back to school and that, I'd be fine with January 11th unless my colleagues across have an objection to that date. I would expect it's 1 to 3. Okay, so.
Yeah, so that is a Thursday afternoon, January the 11th, 1 to 3. So if there's general agreement around the table for that, that will set our date for the January meeting. Okay, our clerk, I think, has note of that. Great, thank you. Some of our other business is some correspondence that was received from our last meeting on August 11th, an email and attachments from Colette Robert, employee representative from the Nova Scotia Minimum Wage Review Committee, sent out a correspondence to the committee, and it was forwarded to all members on August 11th and again this morning. So is there any discussion on that correspondence? Okay, thank you. On August 15th, an email was sent from Christina King, Director of Governance and Accountability Unit in the Executive Council Office, in response to a letter arising from discussion of a previous correspondence at the meeting of June the 6th. This was forwarded again to members on August 16th and again this morning. So just curious if there's any discussion around that. It could play into the next topic in our discussion anyway. Okay. So we will move into the next item on our committee business, and that's a discussion on diversifying appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions that this committee agreed to put on the agenda for today's meeting. So I'll put it on the table. Any discussion on that? Yes. MLA Ince.
Thank you. I would ask our committee to consider, while I've looked at the documents, and the documentation indicates that there has been some movement, and there is a process in which many of the appointments are advertised widely. I still have a concern with the whole process, and I say that because many community members from the African Nova Scotian community don't trust the process. So I would like to ask that we have a discussion around how how the applications are reviewed and picked, and that whole process around people being appointed to these agency boards and commissions. I know that there's an uptake, and when we look at the reports, that there's an uptake in many community members identifying. But again, I'd like to really, when I was the minister, this was one of the questions that I had, and I was looking into, was that whole process on how we pick, who picks the names, and how that process is dealt with. So it's just for my concern to be able to have that discussion fully, to look at how that process is dealt with.
Thank you, MLA Ince. MLA McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just trying to get an idea from MLA Ince, what actually is he looking for? I mean, we just finished topic selection. It wasn't listed as an object that the Liberal or the NDP wanted onto it. From what I read on the report, I didn't do all the reading. I got through most of it. I mean, right now, from what I can see, 41% self-identified, which is unbelievable. I wouldn't have expected it to be that high, and I think the department, and it's probably been for years doing better. I'd probably be mortified if I heard what it probably was 8-10 years ago, to be honest. So I'm trying to get a handle as to what is the member opposite actually looking for, because like I said, if it's bringing the group in, we just finished the items that we all agreed to, and we've got them through. So, and the original motion was to get this report in time for topic selection. So I'm just trying to get a handle. So if the member could let me know.
So I think I'll go to MLA Hanson. I might let MLA Ince just respond to that, and then I'll come back to you. MLA Ince.
And thank you for that. Yes, 41 have self-identified. It's down a little bit because it was 50% at one point. I would like to really just, because someone self-identifies, it doesn't necessarily mean that that name is going to be picked. And yes, there are designated positions, but again, I just know through conversations with many in the community that they are hesitant to even apply for any of those positions because they do not trust the process. And what I mean by that, they don't trust that their names are going to be properly vetted and put forward.
So I'll move to MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think I just kind of want to add on to what MLA Ince is saying in the sense that we do have the numbers, we have the data that shows that folks are actually applying and that there are, you know, a diverse group of folks that are putting their names forward. What we don't see is it represented within the agency boards and commissions with the names that we have, that we get put forward to us. So what we're saying is if there's this many people that are actually applying and there's a percentage of those folks that are self-identifying, how come we're not reaching out or at least connecting with folks to kind of move that around so that we can diversify those boards? I mean, when it comes to our table, it's just the name. And it's just, you know, just basic information. We agree or we don't agree, right? But I think it needs to come within the vetting process or within that process of how do we decide who's going to be a part of these boards and commissions, and it comes down to how do we check in with those folks to make sure that we diversify all of those boards that represent those communities in which they're going to be serving. So I think we have the data, which is great. I think we need to make sure that that data is being utilized in ways to help continue to diversify the boards that we have, because we all know that our boards are not diverse enough, and we want to make sure that we have information now that shows that there are people that are applying, that are diverse in nature, that come from certain backgrounds and community. We need to be able to tap into that and utilize them within all of our boards and commissions.
Thank you. MLA Duale, and then MLA McDonald.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd just like to remind my colleagues one of the reasons this issue is not in the agenda setting, was not picked up, we've been dragging this issue almost a year and a half. That's not fair for even ourselves to talk one subject matter that length of time. So I really believe it's a time to move on. We discussed, we asked questions, we got a report. Now we need to act. What's next? And that's why we need to have this conversation. So this is the reason that was not in the topic. Secondly, you know, as I said before, this has nothing to do with the political party. This is what's best interest for Nova Scotians. And if the system is great, that's not good enough. And the question is how we can make greater. And that's where we are. Yes, we see the numbers, but also, as we saw the report itself, the numbers fluctuate. If you look back, there was years that you see 800 people apply. And there, you see 3 years, 4 years later, you see only 400 people apply. So the number does not tells you the true story, because it's a number, it fluctuates, it goes up and down, whatever the reason is. What we're looking for and what we're interested in is how we can make this better. And I'll give you an example, John. I read this report all the way. If I give you one simple example for how this committee's advertise. It's all great, but this spaces is not the spaces the diverse community you'll see them. These newspapers and these ads and these Facebooks, you don't see them. I'll give you an example, and I'm giving you my personal experience being a member of outreach committee with the Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency. We're trying to diversify for the department, and there's no shortage of applying people. You have 10 positions, so you see 2,000 people apply. But what we look for was how we can see the reflection of the community and how we can see those people to apply these positions. As a specific example, if I give you, we find out we have enough female who's applying these jobs, but they were failing in the system. They were not being the last selection group of the people. And one of the things that we find out was one of the unsuccess steps was the physical fitness. And we made a conscious decision, and we made a decision to post our advertisement every single school educational institution, their sports locker rooms, specifically for the female locker rooms. And the people who come out to the roof. And I attended the last graduation. And funny thing, I think maybe if they were not equal, the female graduate were more than male graduate. So what I'm saying to you is, what's mattered is your intention, not your procedures and policies. What this report, it's a policies and procedures. And that's what we like to encourage the committee. And I'm willing to make an input, and I really believe we as a committee, we're not here only to criticize people, but also how we can make their job better. If we have the skills, how we can guide them, how to do their job and to have a better outcome. So to answer your question, I think it doesn't worth this issue to keep dragging, but the goal is how we can make what we have better than what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you, MLA Dwally. MLA McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to comment on dragging, realize we didn't drag that, right? We waited for the department to get back. All of the committee wanted it there. We were waiting for somebody to be hired as soon as it. So it's just the point of dragging was it. To me, not like, well, hold on. Like this was one of the first motions we actually did where it was unanimous. We had to work out some wording. Just because I'm a policy guy, just to make sure we got what you needed and so we had a clear direction, which is where we are today, because we got it. Another thing is when I did my numbers, 41% of appointed, not applicants, self-identified. So 41% of who was appointed actually did. So if it was 50% appointed back, great. But I think we were talking two different numbers, although you were the minister, so. If I got my numbers wrong, I'll defer to you. So I mean, and I think to your point, when you're talking this, it's the bar. Normally you don't move the bar, but in this, the bar should always be moved. You want to have inclusion, right? So, but again, it still comes down to the point that you haven't actually answered my question. What are you asking for? Because right now, like it's changed this, but for me, it's one. I'll be asking the clerk, is that a mandate of this to modify that, or is it like, so it's kind of like some of the things I get what you're asking for. I just don't know if a committee of the legislature role is to actually influence the policy and procedures that way or not. I just don't know at this level, right? Member Ince has been here longer than me, so I defer to him on that one. But so again, what is it you're actually asking for? You're wanting to have another meeting where we're talking this over? So that's really what I'm looking for, so.
Thank
Cool,
you.
thanks.
MLA Ince and then MLA Dwally.
Well, before I answer that question, I also would like to point out that in the report also, I've noticed a number of great suggestions and topics within that report about getting out and engaging community and doing more. I would be overjoyed if they actually move forward and do that and go to the communities themselves where they can get more Acadians, more Gaelic, more African Nova Scotian, more Indigenous people applying for these. And that I would tout loudly if they really take that step forward. What I'm probably asking for then is probably more of a written report then that would give us an idea of the selection and of process.
So just so I understand, you're asking potentially a request for a letter? Is that what you're asking? MLA Ince?
A letter, a report, something that shows us their process and how they move forward with the process. Because again, just to be accountable to all communities and all the communities I just identified, it would be great for us to be able to show them that the process has got them in mind.
Thank you. MLA Dwally.
Just want to answer the last question of my colleague, MLA John. I think we do have a responsibility to guide the public service. That's why we've been elected. If we feel something are not going the right direction, I really believe we do have an obligation. If we have the skills or we have the knowledge or the guidance to guide them. So I will never shy away if I see any department or any organization that are not going the right direction to say this is not good enough and this is what we're expecting. Thank you.
Okay. MLA McDonald.
Mr. Chair, just like one of the two on either your right or left as to my question on that, because I don't disagree with Emily Dial. I mean, we should, but the point is, it's what is the role of it, and that's I don't like sending a letter off to find out, well, you don't have the right to actually ask a question, so it defeats it. So I'd like their answer onto it. I mean, agree, right? I mean, changing the bar is it? I mean, the report itself was, 13 pages long. It was pretty detailed into it. So I'm done talking.
So I guess what I'm looking for is a bit of clarity and direction here. I feel like we're still not getting direction really too much. I mean, we're having a great discussion. This is a wonderful discussion. Okay, MLA Ince, MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Well, I guess, too, what I wanted to kind of point out for me, what I'm doing in my constituency to get diversity is reaching out directly and trying to promote these things. Like when we get the emails showing that the ABC agencies and commissions are open, I look at them and I think, who in my community would be good? And we now have a new chair of the Student Advisory Committee, Lisa Bland, and I appointed her here. So I felt really, and that put some diversity on that wasn't there. So that's how I'm working with some of these, and some of these things sat on desks for years, I've heard too, maybe didn't get followed through. So I'm trying to put heat on the minister maybe of that particular, I'm getting negative from a certain department of why they stopped. So then I try to say, look, like I've got good people that would look into this, that would represent some of these communities better in today's age. And those are kind of some of the things that I'm doing to promote this in my own constituency. So I don't know if that's, that's sort of what I'm doing as an MLA and being elected to do, because I think it is really important, especially being, it's not the same diversity, but politics tend to be a male-dominated, and I'm proud of our legislature and the fact that we represent more and more diversity each election. So we are, we're slow, but, I do feel optimistic that we have good people here at this committee and in the legislature that can maybe do that in our communities.
We'd like to just give our clerk a minute to provide a bit of context here and some information that might be relevant to our conversation.
just about the mandate of the committee itself. That's in your little green book, the Rules and Forms of Procedure. It's also in the opening pages of the annual report of this committee, which I'm going to be sending out to all of you in the next month for, I hope, approval at the next meeting, so it can be presented in the House. Just if look over the first 4 or 5 pages of the annual report. They give all the background on the committee, and one of the first things is the mandate of the meeting of the committee, which is, as you know, considering matters relative to early childhood development, education, and labor, and then sort of several points, bullet points about what this committee's responsibility is regarding the ABC's appointments, and then several pages of details about that. So there's a lot there, and it might be a good starting place for further discussion.
Thank you, Judy. So the closest thing to an action item I have heard of here at the table is an MLA Ince who put forward a request to ask for a report on procedures. Is that the closest thing that I've heard to an action item? Here?
That would be great.
MLA Ince.
Thank you. That would be great. And I applaud you because MLA Sheeta Richard, all of us should be doing that. Mm-hmm. That's, in my mind, it's something that, and I've not stopped doing that. But again, the evidence shows that we do not. Even most recently, I've had individuals come to me and say, our boards are not diverse enough. How can we get more members? Well, and again, when I talk to most Indigenous members, most African Nova Scotians, most of them do not wish to apply or are very hesitant because of the process they believe is flawed. And so my question really is more around a report, maybe a motion for a report to show us, give us an idea of that full process and how those applications are reviewed and how members are picked.
Okay. So we've had quite a discussion. So right now, I don't think there's a motion on the table for an actual motion. So,
I put a motion.
okay. So could you just read your motion again, MLA Ince, for us?
Yeah.
So everyone can.
Okay. I put a motion forward that we ask department, the department to Executive Council Office, thank you, to provide us with a written letter or report on the process of the agency's boards and commissions, how the applications are reviewed and picked.
A recess has been requested, so we'll take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll reconvene. Order. So there is a motion on the table. We've had quite a discussion, so I'll call the question. Is all those in favor of the motion say aye? Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Very good. So the last piece of committee business before us today was a motion sent to the committee by the NDP caucus. So any discussion on that? MLA Hanson, would you like to read your motion?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a motion on the table, and it's to move that the HR Committee write to the Department of Early Education and Childhood Development in support of releasing the report on school board consultation as soon as possible and establishing a timeline for reinstating school boards. So my purpose for this is because we want to be open and transparent to all parents and students and staff, and we want to make sure that they have all the information that they need moving forward through this consultation piece.
Thank you, MLA Hanson. MLA Young?
Yeah, and I'd like to thank the NDP caucus for giving advance notice of this motion. I believe the initiative that you're talking about, though, would be strengthening local voices in public education. It's not the school board consultations. So we'd be happy to write a letter for an update on the local voice consultation that was announced in December of 2022. If I need to table that, but I got a copy of the release there. So I'd like to make an amendment. I move that the HR Committee write the Department of Early Education and Childhood Development and ask for an update on the local voice consultations.
Yeah, so there's a motion. Yeah, and then there's an amendment.
We proposed an amendment.
Yeah. MLA Hanson, discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like the full report and not an update so that we could view it in its entirety without it being redacted. That would be absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Any other discussion? MLA Inns?
Thank you. I would just concur with my colleague and recommend also that we get a full report. So I'm just in agreement with my colleague. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be voting on the amendment to the motion first. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. The amended motion, I'm sorry.
The amendment. Just the amendment.
The amendment, I apologize. Voting on the amendment.
Aye.
All those in favor of voting on the amendment?
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? Motion is carried.
The amendment is carried. Now we vote on the amended motion.
Yeah, now we vote on the amended motion. Thank you. MLA Hanson?
I just want clarity. I want to make sure that the amended motion will be the report and not an update.
Can you read your amended motion?
Yeah, it's.
MLA Young.
So we just voted on the amendment, and now we'd be voting on the amended motion, which would be the amendment, which is, I move that the HR Committee write the Department of Early Education and Childhood Development and ask for an update on the local voice consultations.
Okay. MLA Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In all due respect, that is not what I was asking when I put forward the motion in the beginning. I don't think we, as a committee, would be doing any type of service to just receive a report. To receive an update. We do need to see the actual report itself in order for us to make, just so we have this information, so we know moving forward what is actually happening and what was given. So I'm kind of. I don't agree with this, with the change that was taking place. I do want us to have the report instead of an update.
MLA Young?
Yeah, with all due respect, the initiative was called Strengthening Local Voices in Public Education. It's not school board consultations, right? So, it's going through the process, and the amendment would be to have an update to be provided. So I can't support a motion that's talking about things that aren't,
MLA Hanson?
I understand where you're coming from with that, but as well, you can't, so cross out the school board consultation and use the name of the report and just provide the report, is what I'm saying.
No other discussion on this, MLA Ince?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a little concerned with what I see as a trend. When we talk about transparency, we are looking at consistently reports being withheld from the public. Just last week, we learned that the government housing report was withheld, so now we're looking at another report about the school boards. So again, I will side with my colleague and ask, please, that we recommend and really consider including the full report on school boards.
So we will now call the question. We'll be voting on the amended motion. Although, MLA Young?
Yeah, just with respect to that, I mean, there's ongoing consultations over the spring and over the summer, and I think, you know, it's not about not being open or not being transparent. It's that there's ongoing consultations. So, again, I disagree with your premise.
MLA Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So absolutely, I would agree that there is ongoing consultations, but we do know that this report is finished and that it is available and it is redacted. So what we want is to make sure that whatever we receive here will actually have all of the information that was given during the consultation in the report in its entirety. So that's what I'm asking. Not a portion, not an update. I would like, and based on, I can take out releasing the report on school board consultation, absolutely. We can look at the report under the name that you mentioned, I can't remember, I'm sorry, but and in its entirety as a full report.
So we'll be voting on the amended motion. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay, so our next meeting, that's the end of committee business. Oh, MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put forward another motion. Is that doable?
It's doable.
Thank you very much. I would also move that the HR Committee write to the Department of Early Education and Child Development in supporting the release of the report on value of local voices as soon as possible and establishing a timeline for reinstating that information.
Well, I think it's the same motion. I believe you just changed the words. So we have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? No discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Aye. Motion is defeated. Okay. Seeing there's no other business, our next meeting will be Tuesday, October the 3rd, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And our topic witnesses will be determined by our clerk from our selection today. So this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you in October. Thank you.